Hello and welcome to the Women in AV podcast. Today joining me is a friend of mine, Krissy. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm so happy that you were able to be here. So we could just go ahead and jump in. Now, Krissy, you and I have known each other for a couple of years now. We used to work together. Your company was the PR firm for the company that I used to work for. So
Yes.
we got to work really, really closely together. But that means that you are an entrepreneur in our space.
Yes.
Which is huge.
I know, right?
Well, let's start at the beginning. How did you get into AV?
So I started way back in 1997 when I became a copy editor for Home Theater magazine. So I moved to LA and I was an English major and I answered like a want ad. And so I would drive to Malibu every day it took like 2 hours, getting from West Hollywood to Malibu where Home Theater magazine was then located. So the industry has just been really good to me, and I've stayed in it since, with, little side journeys here and there. So, yeah.
Okay. The industry's been good for you. You responded to a want ad. Was that a physical newspaper?
I can't even remember, but it must have been, because I don't remember any kind of portal. I do remember taking like stacks of resumes and putting them in the mailbox.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That kind of dates me a little bit. But
That's awesome. So you said the industry's been good to you. So tell us, what do you do?
So now I have my own marketing PR firm. So that was how you and I met about maybe 2.5 years ago. I was kind of, I guess, freelancing, sort of moonlighting behind the scenes with another PR firm. And then, when you guys needed somebody and it kind of landed, it was like, well, why wouldn't I do this myself? And that's kind of what started it all. So
That's
I really,
awesome.
Big love for you.
I have big love for you too. And also the person who introduced us, Brian Galante,
Yes,
who I'm a big fan of as well.
he was my sort of side journey in broadcast. I did broadcast for about 5 years.
So tell me a little about taking this leap of faith, and there's a whole mental aspect that has to come along with it. Obviously the physical aspect of going, I'm going to quit my job. Tell me what that was like for you.
Well, it's so interesting because, when you're a writer, it's like you can be a freelancer, and I worked for, 5-10 years as a completely freelance. So I didn't have a day job, but when I went and got a day job and then I left and I was like, I'm going to start a business. The word business is so much different than I'm freelancing, So when I decided to do it, it was really, it was really scary, as I'm sure you have experienced yourself. But I think having people that believe in you, that are like, yes, why wouldn't you do this? And even clients who are like, yeah, do it, sort of makes that safety net feel, you feel more secure.
Absolutely. And there's certainly ups and downs to it.
Yeah.
I shared with you that I read a book called The E-Myth, which came on recommendation from Mr. John Hood, who's also in our industry. And there's something they reference in that book called an entrepreneurial seizure, which is really what it feels like. Like, I'm going to go out and do this thing. But that's really like a momentary lapse of judgment. And then you've committed. And then you find it's not all that bad.
What was it like for you? Did you have sort of the same epiphany that I'm going to do it?
Yeah. I've always had an entrepreneurial spirit. I've had a lot of, side projects, especially, Rosie Riveters, and I did proavcourses.com and all kinds of stuff during the pandemic, trying to help people, with what I know. And before that, I had a graphic design and virtual assistance firm before I ever got into AV. So I've always wanted to go back to doing my own thing, and it's always been in the back of my mind. And so it just finally hit me at the end of last year that it was just like, it's now or never. If 5 years from now, what will have changed between then and now? And it could just be regret. Why not just start when you can?
Yeah. And the longer you're in it, the more natural it feels. It's like,
Yeah.
it's been 2 years now for us. And, I started this company with my husband, Jason, who, and he was the one who was saying, come on, you can do this. You have it. Like, let's go. So,
Yeah. Oh, the
just having,
support system, same thing. My
yeah,
husband, who
Joel's
I worked
great.
with at two different companies, my favorite coworker, so supportive, and honestly, my best cheerleader. If I'm ever feeling down, he's going to be the one to be like, "Why are you even saying that? What?
Yeah. Imposter
Get over
syndrome.
yourself for just a second." Yeah,
Men don't have that.
yeah, exactly. I want to ask you too. I know that in your career, you did broadcast for a little bit, and then you came back to AV. So you were sort
Mhm.
of like industry adjacent, and you kind of went dark behind the scenes, and then you had to, come back. What was that like?
Roll out
Yeah.
of the mud. Yeah, it really, I never really left the industry. I was just, the company that I was working for in broadcast, it was like a very strict no freelancing policy. So I was kind of keeping my name out
Mm,
of things, but definitely was still writing and still doing things in the AV industry and working with different people. So I never really left, but my name wasn't out there, So when I came back, it was like I didn't think it was going to be this hard because before I left, I had built up a name for myself as a journalist, right? I even wrote a book. It's like, people knew who I was. And then, the industry keeps moving on. People age out of it and new people come in. And then, all of a sudden you don't know anybody anymore. I mean, I still know a lot of people, but,
yeah.
people are like, oh yeah, I remember you, and it was only 5 years that I was kind of gone. It was just,
Hmm.
it definitely, I think, hurt my personal brand, but, you know, that's only now just really becoming a thing for people with social media. So,
Right. The
it's
personal
been like
brand.
yeah, you have a
Hmm.
great personal brand, for example.
Oh, well, I mean,
You
you
know,
helped me with that too. So
and
thank
I'm
you.
sort of an introvert. Like things like this are very much, out of my comfort zone. Like I'm really proud of myself for even being on this podcast because I
Yeah.
just it makes me nervous, and so when you're introverted and that's why I'm a writer. It's like I'm a writer because I'm an introvert. And so
Hmm.
the personal brand part of it has never come really naturally to me. So I'm having to work on it hard.
I will say that one of your superpowers is probably making other people look great in their
No.
domain. Like I know that you and I, when we were submitting things, we would have a half hour conversation, and you would write the most beautiful thing that I couldn't have ever written myself. That really made me look good, and I appreciate it.
Oh, and I loved, one of the my favorite things that you and I did together was when I got to interview about your personal journey. And it's like, oh, wait,
Oh yeah.
I know that. And I know that person. And, just the connections, even, being adjacent and working adjacently, you don't realize like how much inner connection there really is.
So just to be clear, you wrote an article that was about me. This
Yes.
was not something that that was like me about me. That would be
Yeah.
weird. Um,
Yes.
yeah, that was for the Pro AV Person of the Year nomination last year.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
The AV magazine, was it? Person
Yes.
of the year. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was
That
fun.
was awesome. Yes. So thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
You did touch on, we've known a lot of the same people, and you do come in contact with a lot of people, and there's a lot of people that I definitely look up to in our industry. What has mentorship looked like to you in your career?
Um, that's an interesting question. There's definitely people that have, um, you know, been part of my journey. I mean, back when I first started, my one of my first bosses was Maureen Jensen, who is sort of an icon in the residential AV industry. And Carol Campbell was the publisher of the magazine. So these two women were sort of like rarities. Like there were no women, there were hardly any women. And
Sure.
so just watching how they worked and sort of, I was in my 20s and watching these women command space, like as a foregone conclusion, like I'm not here asking for something. I'm here telling you I'm going to give this thing to you. I deserve to be here, and it's a foregone conclusion that I'm here. And so let's do business, So those two people, as women, sort of stick out to me. But then, as an older person, it, like you and I discussed, it's kind of like it's switches. You're trying to stay relevant as you age, and then if you have kids, it's really helpful because they can kind of be like, "What are you talking about?" Like especially with social issues, like social justice, things like that. Like my daughter Maisie, who is 25, I think, or 24. She just got a job like helping foster kids who've aged out of the system get housing. Like she places them in. And I'm just like that sort of philanthropic spirit that the younger generation has. I really admire. Yeah. So definitely looked at the kids.
I'm gonna spring something on you. We didn't talk about this. I have this card deck from the Diary of a CEO, conversation cards, and I picked out 3 cards. So I'm gonna let you pick 1, 2, or 3.
I'll take 1.
What is the most frequent piece of advice that people ask you for, and what's the answer?
It's always related to mechanical things, like, okay, here we're working CEDIA expos coming, right? And it's a hugely busy time for clients. And it's like, well, how many press releases should we do? And what's the timing of them? And are there too many? And, that kind of thing, where it's like actual practical advice. I haven't gotten anybody going, hey, what's it like to run a company, except for you. So it's usually really practical things that, people are actually seeking expertise in an area, or like how many times we post on social media, and, would this be better as a case study or a blog, or, that kind of advice, really, I think.
Awesome. And the answer that would be, you can contract with Rise.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Find this retainer.
Yeah. Very cool. So, one more question that I like to ask my guests is about how you are working on your own personal development. Sometimes that's reading, sometimes that's learning. Different people read in different ways. Some people listen, which is also still a form of reading if you can fill out a book report. So, my question to you would be, is there something that you have learned recently that is worth sharing?
Yeah, this is such an interesting question, and one that you have to like really sort of think about. But because by nature, I'm a reader like you, and I was an English major, and that's kind of where your skills come from, which, for me, like I was saying earlier, it's like I'm definitely an introvert. I've been going to a hip hop class. That's like I do it 3 times a week. I'm a little bit addicted to it, but you go in and there's all these women who have known each other for years, and there's no instruction. You just have to follow the leader. You're just watching people and going, okay, how do I do this? And so there's routines that you just start to learn as you learn the songs. But going into that class, not knowing anybody, I'm like, okay, I'm going to talk to 3 people today, or I'm going to, I'm going to tell somebody I like their shoes or something. Cause when you're shy, it's like, that's really, really hard. So I think, learning about yourself and accepting who you are, pushing your boundaries, but also saying, hey, it's okay. Like there's a reason I'm like this, and it's actually contributed to my skills, my writing skills or that kind of thing. So I love this class, and it's just so much fun.
That's awesome. So you remind me of I did Zumba a couple times, and there was always this one lady that was like, she didn't care what everybody else was doing. She was doing her own expressive movement. It's stepping out of your comfort zone, getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I don't have the not care ability to do that. Yeah.
Sabrina Carpenter, I think, says something like that in one of her songs.
That's actually a really good tip.
Yeah, definitely. I admire you because you're very, I remember the first time we met in person. Well, I think we were at, it was, I don't know if it was the first time, but we were at a trade show and we were at a party or something, and you were like, can I go home now? Like, I'm talked out. I was like, yes, we can all go home now.
Yeah. My husband makes fun of that, makes fun of me for that, because I'll literally just be like, okay, I'm done. Yep. Mm-hmm. My battery is drained, and it's like, it goes from like being on outwardly extroverted, like you have to put on this extrovert hat of like, I'm going to go meet people. And then it literally is draining, and it's like, nope, done, going home. Yeah. That's why I typically during InfoComm, I'm in bed by like 9:30 every night.
Oh,
I just can't. By the end of the day, I'm just done.
Yeah, that it's gotten earlier and earlier over the years. When I started, I remember like we would just be really irresponsible. You're working at a company with people, and people are young, and they're like, let's just stay out late. And the next day, you're just like, what was I thinking?
I want to throw this one on you too. You mentioned that you wrote a book. Is that something you want to talk about?
That is so old.
I know it was so long ago.
Embarrassing. Okay. It's called Home Theater Design. I don't have a copy of it. But it's a coffee table book about home theater back from, the early 2000s. That's woefully outdated now. And, but it was fun. I mean, it's nostalgic for me because it's like, I got this opportunity and I was so excited to have my byline on a book. They were like, we're going to pay you $4,000. I was like, I can pay off taxes. And I thought I was rich.
That's awesome. That's interesting. So like if you wanted an artifact about home theater from that era, this would be the book to get.
You can go read about Dolby Pro Logic,
Oh, good. It was a good moment in time.
CRT TVs and things.
Oh, wow. Well, I want to thank you so much for joining me today and spending some time on our podcast. How can people reach you?
My website is risemediastrategy.com, and we're on all the socials. But I think mostly lately, LinkedIn has been the place, feels like that's the place to find people. So Krissy Rushing Tomlin on LinkedIn.
Awesome.
I look so forward to seeing you next month.
I know. We're just going to see each other in a couple of weeks, which I am excited about as well. Yeah. Thank you again for your time today. And to the listeners, if you know anybody who would be great on this podcast, literally, it's open to almost anybody. We want to be able to showcase these women in AV and the incredible journeys that they're on. Please reach out to us so we can get them on the podcast. Thank you.
The network for the AV industry. What are you listening to? This
is AV.
This is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
Hello, this is Steve Greenblatt, host of AVNation's A State of Control podcast. Each month, Rich Fregosa and I explore trending topics related to control programming and automation in the audiovisual industry. We speak with a variety of AV professionals who share their perspectives, knowledge, and experiences. Please join us for this monthly conversation. Check out A State of Control on avnation.tv or wherever you get your podcasts.